Welcome back to Redneck Reviews, where the tism is real, but the intakes are fake.
Oh, I fucking hate you.
I can see a booster barrel. I feel like Rocky.
Oh, it's way deeper than I thought it was.
Oh, hey. We have arrived to the Tele the Dragon.
All right. Here we go.
Two-wheel death machine. So we've got shitty brakes, a death wobbling front end. I've got more horsepower than IQ points. Let's see how this goes. We've got 130 horsepower versus 8. It's a good time to run through specs. What's this thing weigh?
Right at about 572.
Ooh, good and heavy. And it's all in the motor too, because that thing is freaking heavy.
Yeah, we found that out the hard way.
This thing was in pieces for 3 months. Had a timing chain tensioner go bad, bent 4 titanium valves.
Piston laughed at it.
Not a good day, not a good day.
It took 3 of us to get it off the counter. I could feel the disc in my back trying to give out when we picked it up.
It's such a pain in the ass to get this engine out of the frame.
You have to pull quite literally everything except the headlight. I mean, it is an ungodly nightmare.
I'm surprised we found all the pieces to put it back together.
Yeah, we didn't miss a single piece actually, which is kind of surprising.
Of course, old wingnut back there, Tim, we've got $800 rear shocks and a ripped seat because priorities.
Yes. Although I will say this, even though it's been an absolute nightmare working on the thing and dealing with its many issues and flaws, it is an absolute joy to ride.
Hands down, probably the best sounding bike ever made.
I wholeheartedly agree. It sounds so good. Although we did learn one very important thing when putting the exhaust on it. Never, ever, ever straight pipe it, or you will not hear anything for 3 weeks.
We started it up in a metal building, and the resonation was ridiculous.
Point blank, we only hit 9 grand, and it was deafening.
My ears rang for a week.
Prior to putting those shocks on the rear, the ride quality, while it is still not great by any means, was significantly worse. The wheelie capabilities have gone down though since we put the good suspension on the rear, which is fine, it needed that.
Not a bad thing, because this front end coming back to the ground and already having death wobble before that, kind of sketchy.
Just a little. When you would set it down from a wheelie, if you were not 100% perfectly straight, you're getting a monster death wobble, and you just got to hold on and pray.
There's so many reasons this thing's the widowmaker.
Oh yeah, and what I think is hilarious is that of all the bikes I could have started with, I started on probably the worst starter bike known to man.
Looking through all the bikes, like, what do I want? I want that one.
Yeah, side note, I never knew they existed. He shows me during lunch at work. He's like, hey, what do you think of this? 3 days later, I bought one, if that tells you my reaction. Drove all the way out to Indiana to get it.
Yeah, this guy calls me. I found a bike, we're going to Kentucky. I didn't ask a single question. We just get in the car and go.
Yeah, my wife was very happy with me.
4.5 hours later, I'm like, how far into Kentucky is it? Right on the border of Indianapolis. Just a stone's throw away, we could see the river.
The brake light, as I'm sure you can see, just jiggles the entire time. I mean, non-stop. The headlight is... The low beam is great. The high beam is...
Oh, the headlight sucks. Headlight's more of a suggestion. So you've got dual discs up front, fairly large, and It's like blocks of wood for brake pads. The brake feel is terrible. They're grabby, they're bitey. The worst front brakes out of any bike I've ever ridden.
Yeah, they're pretty garbage. It's
definitely gonna have to upgrade to some R1 brakes.
yeah. It's a little, medium, or everything it's got. There is really no in between.
And you know, this thing being a heavy bike, it's
Yeah.
a little under brake.
Yeah, now what's sad is those are the upgraded brakes. Apparently they were worse on the older years, and I mean much worse. The forks also are the upgraded forks that are supposed to help with the death wobble, which makes you think just how terrible the forks were on the original model. Although the list of changes on those bikes from 1985 to 2006, I believe, is about 10 things. I mean, they really didn't change much. That is mechanical changes.
Well, those of you out there that've never ridden a Dragon before, scenery's nice.
Oh, it's fantastic. This will be my first time on the Dragon on a bike that isn't straight out of hell itself. The thing that I'm looking forward to the most is watching you and seeing how hard you're willing to take it in the corners.
How far I can push it? I'm gonna go very lightly because this is not my bike, and this is quite possibly one of the deadliest roads in the country. So we're gonna take it nice and easy on the widowmaker because this road is a widowmaker of its own.
That is true. Last time we were up here, we saw a Corvette that was just completely totaled, wheels off the ground in the air.
All right, we finally made it to the twisty part of the Dragon. Already got a little bit of death wobble going here and there.
That's normal. Just keep pulling the throttle back.
Tim's gonna try to keep up on the mini moto.
I'm giving her all that she's got, Captain.
I don't have the capacity.
Honestly, if this had more power, this thing would be a dream up here.
That's why I'm riding it on the way back to the downhill. The downshifts feel wonderful on this thing. A lot of hairpins.
Yeah, watch that weight on you.
Throttle is definitely a wee bit jerky off the bottom. The bars are so narrow, it does not help the death wobble.
Leave the bars alone, they're fantastic.
They were going for that like sport bike clip-on feel, but you've got like upright, like naked bike vibes going on for the bar placement. It's a very comfortable seating position, but the narrow bars do not add confidence. Versus my Indian that's got bars way out, like 33-inch bars on that thing.
Oh, I like the bars. They're stupid, but they're comfy. Man, it's just so fast out of the corners.
It sounds so good.
Yeah, that is the best part of the bike, is how wonderful it sounds.
Delcovic exhaust, I do recommend. It looks great. The exhaust looks phenomenal on this bike too. It doesn't just sound good. But when you're on it, the induction noise, the intake is just so wonderful. And that shift through the V-boost at 6K. Now that's one of the main reasons this thing is the widowmaker, is that V-boost right there at 6K. Whenever you're really pushing this thing in the corners and V-boost hits, that rear end wants to step out. It's like having a bike with a turbo.
Yeah, it acts very much like a supercharger.
It's a completely different bike above 6K and below 6K. Sounds completely different. The exhaust note changes.
It takes it from a single carb per cylinder to a dual carb.
Once again, tail of the Dragon, if you've never been. Very well paved. If you go on a weekday, traffic is very nice.
Yeah, just stay away from Thursday and Friday, from what I've been told by the locals.
Yeah, we always go on a Monday before work. It's so twisty in this thing. The front end is so bad, you really cannot get into it. It is brutal.
Yeah, it's a fight.
130 horsepower with a front end that's this bad. These bikes are notoriously known for the death wobble.
Yeah, they're also known to kill many, many people because of that death wobble.
1200 cc V4. You got loads of torque, loads of peak horsepower.
It's funny, that thing belches horsepower.
Whenever you put it into the turn, it really does fall into the turn, but you really have to initiate the turn. But once you get in, it falls in, it holds the line fairly well. But there's like a weird point in between going straight and dipping it into a corner that it does not like. Ooh, did somebody lay it down? Nope, broken Harley.
That's typical. That's a new feature.
Oh man, the rear swing arm bushings in this thing definitely need to be replaced. Oh, it gets going way too quick for its own good. And the brakes are so bad. Oh man, on-off throttle feel going through a turn. So coming into a corner off the throttle and then slightly going back into a turn, it really jerks. So the on-off throttle feel is very twitchy. Oh yeah, right at that 40-mile-an-hour mark, that head just wants to shake. I am taking it fairly easy because this is not my bike. I do not want to wreck it. How's insurance on this thing?
More than it is on the Indian, we'll put it that way.
Pretty cheap?
It's about 78 bucks a month, I think.
For reference, he's 22 with a bike with 130 horsepower. Oh, the front brakes are just like blocks of wood.
Yeah, they're bad. I will say, you cannot trust the front brakes. Whenever you're riding behind someone and you're on the Vmax, you keep a very nice gap.
I have to be so much more focused on this bike than when I'm riding my Indian on this road.
Yeah, you have to be just in it the whole time, because if you're not, you're gonna mess yourself up pretty good. There's cyclists out here.
Death wish. Good God.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the worst roads in the world to take on a bicycle. Ooh, what
You see
was
the
that?
back end?
Yes, I did. Is that the back brake?
No, that was just some downshifting.
There's a little bit of scrape marks on the ground right there.
Oh God.
Yeah, watch that.
Oh, I love this
Come on,
turn.
Z. Come on, Z, let's catch him. Yeah, this little section is fantastic.
I'm just barely cracking the throttle the whole time.
I'm over here at limiter. Tell you what, you are going to absolutely obliterate me when you're on this.
Am I?
You're going to just leave me sitting when you're on this thing.
I'm taking it very easy.
I can tell.
Oh man, the front end lifts so much when you get into the power versus when you're not. Front end dive is hard. Just no guardrail, just cliff.
Yeah, that is the dangerous part.
Welcome to the Dragon.
Now, I'll tell you what, I can say this with confidence. I think I'm probably having a better time on this than I did when I was on the Vmax last time I rode it up here.
I'm betting you're having a better time on that than I am on this.
Oh, it's a blast, dude.
This thing is some work to keep it going on the road.
You are exhausted after riding this road on that. You want to just cruise.
Yeah, if you ride a lot of twisty roads, I don't recommend the first gen VMAX.
No, not by any means. Oh, no.
It's rough.
The back brake's stout, but you don't have ABS, so You have to be careful with it.
It just locks them.
Yeah.
Oh, and you could tell when you hit North Carolina because the road gets a lot less nice. God bless Tennessee.
Oh, I don't like this road now.
See, this thing's a lot of fun, but it is a lot of work.
Oh yeah, you have to work for it. And honestly, you enjoy it. It's just, you get your workout in.
It is a muscle cruiser, and it is a workout.
Yeah. The muscle is not from the bike, it's from you telling it what to do.
Oh yeah, you gotta hit the gym to drive one of these.
Yeah, yeah. And I haven't been in a while, so, you know.
Well, you're about to.
Yeah, yeah, this is my gym.
I can say at low speeds, this thing is phenomenal.
Oh yeah, it handles great.
There is so much rotating mass that it just holds itself up. I've never ridden a bike that is so stable at low speeds. I think it's because the flywheel weighs a ton. All right, time to pry my ass cheeks from the seat because they're too busy gripping it. That's why the seat's so ripped, because your booty cheeks just pucker and it just rips the seat. Oh, we got the Tree of Shame in the background.
I haven't joined it yet. I'm proud of myself.
The dragon, Tree of Shame. I can see a Busa fairing.
I can see a boot. How hard?
What year did they do that plastic, the orange one? I think it's 08.
You know, I've never seen a V-Star up here.
All right.
Another inside joke.
That's true. How have you not died on this yet?
I'm telling you, I'm a better rider than you think. It's just I have to deal with this, and this is sketchy. There it is. Neutral didn't want to go back to... Oh, God. You're going to have to give me a minute. I'm
Keep in mind, you haven't ridden that all day.
I know. I'm going to be very, very slow.
Alrighty, we are back on every bit of 8 horsepower. I don't feel like I'm going to die anymore because I'm not on the Vmax.
The brake's quite a little bit of head shake there. That's typical, unfortunately. There it was. I finally missed a gear.
Yeah, it's really bad about that, like 1-2 shift, or it's got like a few false neutrals in there. The transmission really could be better on that bike. Now, I bet they fixed it with the second gen. They fixed a lot of problems the first gen had.
Yeah, they made the engine modular, which was what they should have done with this.
Oh yeah, it's way, way nicer. But I think the first gen sounds better.
I agree, it does.
You can look up all the sound clips you want. You just can't fully get the full induction noise out of the video. You've got to be riding one. Hey, do a flyby. I want to hear it.
Do a flyby. Hang on.
Beautiful lake out there.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Honestly, this is a pretty good thing to be taken on roads like these. You got the Mini Moto and the Vmax. Its restraints are the complete opposite of this. This thing's restraints are power, and that is just turning without dying. Slowing down without dying.
Yep, you are all corners and nothing else. This is all straights and death in the corners if you're not careful. Yeah, it's real easy to throw around this. You gotta tell it. It doesn't like listening. Once you initiate the turn though, it's well behaved.
Yeah.
Generally.
Unless you have to touch the brakes.
Yes. Which is basically every turn.
All right, Yamaha Vmax. This thing definitely got the nickname the Widowmaker for good reason. Now, it's not the only bike that's got that nickname, but they do call this the Widowmaker because you've got 130 horsepower and shitty suspension and brakes that suck, and it's heavy. Yeah, but the nice thing is you can hop on Marketplace anywhere. You can find one of these $5 grand all day long. If you go up to 6, you can find them in like mint condition. They are fairly cheap speed. So if you're looking for a bike that's just gonna go out there and gap a lot of your sport bike buddies, this is the bike to do it. This bike was designed to do two things alone: burn tires off and go really fast in a quarter mile, and that's it. That's all it was designed for. It wasn't designed to take a turn, do long haul cruising. It wasn't designed for any of that. It was just designed for quick quarter mile passes. Now, people do modify the hell out of these bikes. There is a fairly decent aftermarket out there. Morley's Muscle, main guy for this generation Vmax, and getting them wherever people want to get them. Now, the stock suspension is probably the most notable thing that sucks. These bikes are known for having a death wobble in the front, and you do have options out there to upgrade the suspension. Tim went the route of putting Olin's shocks on the back. Those were not cheap. He got them $800 used. And if you want some new ones, they're gonna cost much more than that. $1,400 for a brand new set of Olin shocks in the rear. If you go the new route, he was smart, bought them used from Japan. The fronts, they do make spring kits and gold emulators and stuff of that sort for upgrading the stock suspension. You do see a lot of people go the route of swapping front ends off of other bikes onto these just because the front end is that bad. Now, the stock bars don't help with the head shake, that's for sure. It has very narrow bars for a bike that's this heavy from the factory. Not exactly confidence inspiring when you're really pushing this thing in the turns, but if you're a street squid bombing through traffic lane splitting, those bars are probably pretty nice. Don't condone it. People, please don't buy Vmaxes to be street squids. Well, anyway, the stock suspension is brutal. Tim did just have the rear swing arm bushings replaced because they were so shot the entire rear end of the bike was moving about 2 inches independent of the rear wheel. And that did not help with the sketchiness. Now, it is a fairly low mile bike that we have here. I think it's only got 7,000 miles on it. It had been laid over, not terribly. The Japanese guy that locked himself in the office for a set amount of time to design this thing was definitely on some hardcore drugs, because there's some questionable design choices when it comes to engine related stuff. The transmission for sure is one of the major flaws of this bike. It really likes to neutral. You don't have a whole lot of great feel in the lever for shifting. It's mostly an 80s bikes thing. It's not just this one. You do get it in most of them. They are known for losing second gear if you neutral them too hard too many times. The transmission is something that if you're going to be putting any kind of power through these beyond what they already have, or you're just going to be riding them hard in general, you do need to upgrade the transmission or you're going to blow some things apart. I do think the seat rips faster on Vmaxes because you get that pucker factor and your ass just kind of rips the seat. Whenever you get off of it, you kind of hear the suction because you get a lot of oh shit moments on these bikes because the brakes suck, the suspension sucks, you've got that head shake, and from the factory, there are a lot of upgrades you have to make these a good bike. But they're fast. At the very least, they're fast. Did I mention the brakes freaking suck? There are a lot of aftermarket options for the brakes. You can do FZ1 brakes, R1 brakes, Hayabusa brakes. The options are out there to upgrade, and I highly recommend if you buy one, you brutally need to upgrade the brakes. You're gonna have some old guy out there just, they were good enough back in my day. You do get a lot of attention on this bike. All your old guys, and yes, I'm gonna call out you old people. All your guys that had one back in the day, back in the 80s, or they raced bikes, they rode bikes in general, they all know what this is. Normal people, you roll up, you know, in town, nobody cares in town. They're just, oh, he's got a motorcycle. But you'll just pass that one person every once in a while that knows what it is. It's like, oh my God, is that a Vmax? And they've got to tell you the story on how either they owned one, their buddy owned one, and it was just the coolest, fastest thing ever. It gets its fair share of attention when you've got it out there. I don't know how much attention the second gen would get. It might be more by regular people, but not as much by old guys. Now, when they designed this, they tried to go for that tried and true muscle bike look They kind of invented the muscle bike look. They were going after the cars from the 60s and 50s where they hot rodded them out. They added that flare to the back, trying to kind of emulate what was going on in the hot rod era. You know, you've got these scoops trying to look like a blower off the front of one of those cars. And I think they did a fairly decent job. A lot of people you either love how the Vmax looks or you hate how it looks. There are a lot of custom Vmaxes out there that people have done, doing a lot to these bikes. The dash is nice. I will say it's very 80s. You got a fuel gauge would be great. That's the one thing I wish the bike had, because it is thirsty. Very thirsty bike. How many gallons does this hold? We'll put it right there. I think it's 4, but it'll be on the screen. It drinks it quick. Your range on this bike could definitely be a little bit better. That 1200 cc's of high compression just chugs it. Bugs are getting bad. I keep having to do this. Features I like. The dashes are kind of cool on this. You got the nice speedometer up top, then you got RPM and your temp down below. It is a nice, good looking setup. I do like how they did that. I really love how they took the same situation and did it on the 2nd gen. Looks great on the 2nd gen. Definitely in the future going to be upgrading the headlight, the turn signals. Those are things Tim's planning on doing to it. Probably going to do different intakes. Mostly cosmetic stuff on top of changing the front end, upgrading the brakes. He's going to do springs and emulators in them. He's really hoping that helps with the death wobble. I'm trying to talk him into put wider bars on it. He refuses. We need to get some Indian mirrors. If you're going to ride them stock at night, you need to upgrade the headlight because the bike outruns the light way faster than it should. You can really get into some trouble. You need more light if you're going to be riding this thing at night. You've got options out there, whether you're just upgrading the bulb or putting a whole new headlight on it. It won't be that hard. LED turn signals is something he's probably going to do. The stock turn signals are fairly large. They stick out. They're very 80s. You know, they're traditional, what you'd see. We do have a center stand on this bike, which is nice because it needs to be worked on a lot. They are fairly high maintenance and it spends a lot of time on the stand. Tim did put a set of Delcovic exhausts on this thing. Beautiful Delcovic cans. I love how they look, love how it sounds. We'll get a little sound clip here in a minute. It's one of the most notable features of the Vmax is the sound. The bike has V-boost. That's one of the things that, on top of the shitty suspension, is terrible in the corners. The big claim to fame on these was the V-boost system. So it goes from pulling from just 1 carb per cylinder and it opens it up so it can pull multiple per cylinder. You do notice when it hits. It's right over 6,000 RPM. The entire sound of the bike changes. The way the power hits changes. The induction noise especially changes. That is one of the most wonderful things about this bike, is running it through the 6,000 RPM range and really revving it out and just hearing the intake. Because this is a false tank. Your tank is down below the seat and you just get that wonderful induction noise. One of the most iconic features of this bike is how it sounds. So we'll give you a little sound clip. We'll start her up. Starts right up. He's got it running real well. Normally he doesn't ever really need to use choke much unless it's cold outside. Otherwise it just fires right up. No issues. It does have that nice iconic idle. We'll sound clip it. I'm hoping it picked that up well, because it really is one of the best sounding bikes ever made. So phenomenal. It really captures that muscle car essence from back in the day. It does, especially when you're riding it with the stock exhaust and the stock intake. It really sounds like a V8 as soon as you take it past V-boost. It brings a smile to your face. It's wonderful. The front end does come off the ground fairly easily, which is terrifying. Not so much having the front end off the ground, but when it comes back down, a nice Steering dampener is definitely going to be an addition that this will get. Probably not the best wheelie bike ever because V-boost. It's just like having a supercharger or turbo on something. You've got that little bit of lag, and as soon as it hits, it adds a lot. So a lot of guys have looped these out and had bad things happen. It just had the V-boost kick in, having them a little too far leaned over to in a turn, the rear end kicking out on them. One of the main reasons it's called the widowmaker. And you definitely notice that V-boost is there. It adds a lot of character to the engine. It's something I don't know of any other bike that quite has a feature like it. Oh, he also plans on putting radial tires on it because the groups recommend those to make it handle a little bit better. And if anybody out there has a second gen that they're willing to let us either do a review on or just ride for comparison usage, please let us know. I have never seen one in person. I really want to ride one. So would Tim, the owner. Oh, yeah, passenger accommodations. I didn't talk about that on the Mini Moto. I'm not going to. The passenger accommodations on this bike, if you don't upgrade the suspension, not the best bike to have a passenger on because the front wheel does get very, very light. Even if your rider is not the heaviest person ever. But you do have quite a bit of room back here. Oh, and it's very comfortable. You could ride two up on one of these basically all day as long as you make the proper changes to the brakes and the suspension. It could be a road trip bike. I don't know if I'd recommend it, but it's doable. A lot of the testing we did was on the tail of the Dragon, Route 129. Just to really see how terrifying and brutally bad the suspension and the brakes were on the old Vmax. And you learn firsthand why this bike is called the Widowmaker. It doesn't add any confidence at all. You can't really trust the front brake. It's very grabby, takes a lot of pressure to engage. Now, the brakes have been bled properly, proper fluid flush. All that's been done to see if it can help the front brakes. It doesn't, okay? He will be upgrading the brakes, probably to Hayabusa brakes, steel braided lines, that situation to help that. You'll be able to push this bike much, much harder in turns if you can trust the brakes. Because right now they're too grabby, kind of twitchy. It's like two blocks of wood. Not a whole lot happens. They feel like they overheat fairly quickly. Definitely, if you're getting one of these bikes, consider the extras into the budget for making it a good bike. Now they are fast as They are a very, very fast bike. If you want to scare your sport bike buddies, just show up on one of these and go, oh, he's got a cruiser, and then just gap them.
Don't condone it, but
Yeah. Drag strips only. Drag strips only. Don't do it on the street, please. Thanks for watching Redneck Reviews. See you in the next one.
Fake car foam Fibre. It's got all the fake car foam Fibre.